All right, welcome everyone. Today we're going to deconstruct a piece of literature that at first glance seems incredibly simple, but don't let that fool you. Tucked inside this little story are some amazing layers of conflict, character, and, believe it or not, a really profound resolution. So let's dive deep into the text we call Viku's Tomato Stomp.
And here we go. This is it, the single foundational event that kicks our entire story into gear. Viku stumps tomatoes. Now, we could get into the how of it all, the physics, the force, but the much bigger question is the why. This one moment, right here, is the absolute core of our investigation today.
And you gotta love this. The source material gives us this fantastic sensory detail. It's not just a stomp, it's a thump, thump. That's not just a sound effect, you know? It creates a rhythm, a deliberate beat that really highlights the intention behind the act. This sound is basically the heartbeat of the whole conflict.
So this leads us right into our first section, the tomato stomp incident. In storytelling terms, this is what you'd call the classic inciting event. It's that one moment that just shatters the peace and quiet of the village and sets our hero off on a very unusual journey.
Let's just look at the text itself. Viku stumps tomatoes. Thump, thump. I mean, think about how economical that language is. You've got your character, Viku. You've got the action, stops. You've got the object of that action, tomatoes. And you get the audio track, thump, thump. It's the entire chaotic scene wrapped up in one perfect little sentence.
Okay, so we've established the what, but now the story gets so much more complex as we move into our second section to figure out the why. We're talking about an unconventional motive. It's time to try and understand what on earth our protagonist was thinking.
And really, this is the central question of the entire piece, isn't it? What could possibly drive a person to do something so specific, so messy, and, let's be honest, so seemingly pointless? Was it anger? A bold political statement? Maybe some kind of performance art? Well, the source material gives us an answer, and it is not what you're expecting.
And there it is, the big reveal, straight from Viku himself. It wasn't about malice, wasn't about anger. It was about a pure sensory impulse. I just wanted to smell them. So the motive, it turns out, was all about smell. This single line completely reframes the whole event. It wasn't an act of aggression, it was an act of profoundly misguided curiosity.
You know, every great protagonist needs a foil, right? A voice of reason to come in and challenge their worldview. And that brings us right to the story's climax. This amazing conflict between Viku's raw, unfiltered instinct and the arrival of pure, simple logic.
So the whole conflict is boiled down to these two perfectly simple ideas. On one side, you've got Viku's method, smelling with his feet. And on the other side, his challenger, Seru, comes in with a pretty radical alternative. Try smelling with your nose. This is truly a methodological dispute for the ages.
And here it is, the brilliant rebuttal from our voice of reason, Seru. Try nose, not feet, buddy. The logic is it's undeniable, it's almost painfully obvious. And the addition of buddy at the end, that's key. It softens the whole thing, so it's not a harsh criticism. It's more like a piece of friendly, if slightly baffled, advice. This line is the absolute comedic turning point.
So the conflict has been laid bare, the logic has been presented, and now we get to our final act, a comedic resolution. But what's interesting is that this isn't decided by our two main characters. No, the final verdict comes from a much higher authority, the entire community. The source text gives us the conclusion loud and clear. Villagers laugh at the duo's chaos. So the conflict isn't resolved with anger or punishment, but with everyone just laughing together. The chaos is completely neutralized, just absorbed by the group's amusement. All the tension is released, and harmony is restored, all through comedy.
So, if we recap the whole anatomy of this chaotic little moment, you can see it follows a perfect four-act structure. Act 1, the stomp. That's our chaotic event. Act 2, the excuse, the absurd motivation. Act 3, the retort, the logical counterpoint. And finally, Act 4, the laughter, the community's resolution. It's a complete narrative arc in just a handful of lines.
And so we'll leave you with one last question to think about. It's really easy to just dismiss Viku's method as totally absurd, but consider this. In his own weird way, he was trying to experience the world through a completely new sensory lens. So was he just being chaotic, or was this just maybe the messy, sloppy birth of innovation? As we've seen, the line between those two things can be a lot finer than you might think.